a martial arts movie podcast.
I threw that shit before I walked in the room.
Featuring drunken Thai boxer, Will.
Too bad you will die.
The also drunken wrestler, Mark.
I said I don't want trouble.
And drunken karate master, Zero.
You've lost your balls.
And now,
Call. I know Kung Fu.
You know, baby.
Fists of Fail. Alright, cool. We are continuing our obvious lack of knowledge of everything that is Wu-Tang Clan month. But we are going along with this theme still, and we decided on the movie today. I don't know. There's a lot of movies that Riza has recommended, obviously, right? The movies that have influenced him. And we decided on this one in particular for some reason. And I am so glad that we did, because I thoroughly enjoyed today's film. Today's movie is Shaolin versus Wu-Tang, right, Zero?
Yeah. I mean, it gets a little confusing because the title is also Shaolin and Wu-Tang.
Oh, is it?
And there's two different titles. And it gets confusing as well because there's a video game called Shaolin versus Wu-Tang. So when you start looking up anything for this movie, you start to get cross-references to other things.
Yeah. Well, you'll nowadays you'll find more information on the video game than you will the movie. Which is fine. Like, actually, like, maybe one day we'll do a let's play on that game. But for now, let's just talk about the movie that inspired the Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, they all inspired it, but like they basically took the title straight from this movie. The name of their group straight from this movie, and like that, I think that was like directly from Riz's mouth himself.
Yeah, I always assumed that Wu-Tang came from a martial arts film. I didn't know which one. But now I know, so that's kind of neat. Yeah.
So, I mean, okay. So last episode we talked about Mystery of Chess Boxing. That one, I said that was just one movie that they watched. It was cool, like to them. There was like no substance to that movie. It's just a bunch of fighting. The philosophy of the movie isn't really all there. It's just it's just relentless. Like from beginning to end, there's a lot of fighting.
It's kind of like a mindless action movie or popcorn movie back in the day, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine.
Right.
You can still get some enjoyment out of it. Influence the members. Back in like the 70s and 80s. Oh well, I guess late 70s, 80s. But like that movie doesn't really have much to it. This movie, on the other hand, has a lot to it. The story's actually very interesting. And oh man, do you want to do this, Zero? Do you want to explain the story for this movie?
So there's two guys, Gordon Liu, who's a star and the director, and Adam Cheng. Gordon Liu is a member of, he studied Shaolin style martial arts, and Adam Cheng is studying Wu-Tang. And basically what happens is there is, I guess, like a king or a lord character played by, is it Johnny Wang?
Johnny Wang. Mm-hmm.
Okay. He wants to know both of their styles because he just wants to be like the best martial artist for some reason.
Yeah.
And so he concocts this plan where he, a little spoilery, but I mean, it does happen pretty early on. He poisons Adam Cheng's master in hopes to blackmail him into getting the secrets of the Wu-Tang sword techniques. It doesn't work, and so they lock up Adam Cheng in a all-female mental asylum.
Asylums are really, like, that's a euphemism. It is not. It's just a prison.
Prison, right?
Yeah.
It's a loony bin.
It's a holding cell.
Yeah. And so basically from there, it's like Gordon Liu trying to break him out. And then from there, the movie takes some like weird turns. I don't want to, I guess, maybe ruin too much because you think the movie is going a certain way and then it doesn't go there, but then it circles back around.
Okay. I'm curious.
So there are kind of twists and turns. So I mean, I guess I can kind of spoil it because it's not like a big surprise, but it does happen out of nowhere. Suddenly, the two characters they kind of go their separate ways, and Gordon Liu goes to the Shaolin Temple, and Adam Chang goes to where the other members of the Wu Tang Clan, where the Wu Tang members are, and they both start to train in their separate disciplines.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's basically
and
it. Yeah.
right. It's weird because we understand the story of, or we understand the drive of the characters is Johnny Wang is the bad guy. He killed Adam Chang's master, so they should be going after him to get revenge. But the movie takes a hard left detour,
Yep.
so that they can train, but they don't know that they're They don't know what they're training for. Well, they don't know what they're training for, but we know as the audience members because in the background, Johnny Wang is concocting this plan to defeat both disciplines.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's the detail that I actually find very fascinating about the story. And again, this is Gordon Liu's first directing outing. I mean, this is not first directing role, but this is first directing outing without Lau Kar-leung being involved in it. So I was actually very impressed with the story all in all. The main driving force for why both these lead characters, Adam Chang and Gordon Liu, to learn and master their respective arts is so that they can get revenge because they think that the other side has wronged them. But this is all a ploy from Johnny Wang. Johnny Wang is actually just trying to make them kill one another, and whoever survives at the end, he kills them. So basically there's less fighting for him to do. But in the end, he's going to be the last one to survive.
Right. Yeah, that's a plot detail I didn't mention. They are kind of mad at each other because each person thinks the other person betrayed them and kind of sided with their discipline more. Because in the beginning of the movie, they're friends. They're very very chummy. And then the Johnny Wang character, the King Lord, whatever, he is secretly he's working behind the scenes to kind of befell both men.
Yes. Well, that's. I mean, I don't know. It's very simple on paper.
When you watch it unfold, you don't really know where the movie's going. Actually, that's why I was kind of hesitant to maybe open up too much of the plot. But I guess when you're watching it, you're still like, all right, well, where are we going now?
Oh,
so,
sure. Yeah. No, that's true. So I think the basic premise of the movie is very simple. But the execution of it when you're watching it, it doesn't lay it out like that. You can definitely see the blueprints of what they're trying to do, and what the conflict actually is, and it basically leads to it's called Shaolin versus Wu-Tang for a reason. So that's where you're leading it to.
Right. All story points then converge to the final, obviously the final battle between the two main characters. It's coming, but it's kind of interesting because we know it's happening because we understand the story structure because we're watching it, as an audience member. But the two main characters do not know that's gonna happen.
Right.
I wish there was a way they wrote it where maybe it was a surprise to us and the characters.
Oh, okay.
But I don't think that's possible though.
Probably not. I mean, you're latching on to both characters, right? Even though they go their separate ways, we cut back and forth to them every once in a while. So there's no one main hero, even though I know Gordon Liu's directing as well, but he's basically co-starring with Adam Chang. So there's no one side you're supposed to side on. All you know is that Johnny Wang needs to die at the end of the movie, and by the end of the movie, you're like, oh. That was a weird ending.
Oh man, I love this ending. I can't wait.
Wait, can't wait till we talk about it. Yeah. No, but like I said, of course, if you write it all on paper, what the premise is, it's very simple, very straightforward. The premise, but with the execution of it, they keep things interesting. It does kind of weave and turn, little things. It doesn't happen immediately. They're just basically setting up this rivalry, this betrayal that they both feel they're both sides are feeling. But this is all happening, like with the backdrop of like the villains like basically forcing this onto both sides. So that like there's gonna be a confrontation at the end.
Right. He's kind of pulling the strings to make the events happen.
Yep.
And converge at the end.
Right. So, I mean, this is it's fascinating to me because I don't know much about Wu-Tang. I don't know much about the Wu-Tang Clan, but I also don't know much about Wu-Tang. Period. All like just learning about so basic Chinese history. Like super basic. The Qing Dynasty was like basically cracking down on basically anyone who could possibly know martial arts at the time. So, because, like they want to squash any sort of uprising. And, like basically the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, that movie is like a perfect example of like just like really summarizing a lot of that. So this movie has a little like elements of that too. The Qing Dynasty, Johnny Wang represents like a lord who works, like below the emperor. And he's basically trying to squash, like any sort of rebellion, anyone who might know martial arts. But at the same time, like he's trying to learn it himself, right? Yeah. So that he can be a better martial artist and like make sure that like he'll learn it and then he'll kill the people who originated it. Yeah, but
why though? Because then wouldn't they just go and kill him since he knows it?
Yeah, I mean, but he'd be working for the emperor, right? So yeah.
Oh, okay, I see. Right. Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
But so the Wu-Tang side of things, I guess Wu-Tang, like Modong or Wu-Tang in Mandarin, they like that. They're not as like well known to me. Like obviously everyone knows Shaolin, but Wu-Tang, like I guess they're like more known for like their sword arts or like the weaponry. Whereas like Shaolin's more known for like we all know the typical weaponry that they use, like the the spears, the rods, like the monk spades. We have a lot of like more iconic imagery. Whereas Wu-Tang is like it feels like it's more it has its own distinct visual style, right? It's a lot of like pointing, a lot of like very angular movements, I guess. Like, is that the best way to describe it, Zero?
I mean, I don't know Wu-Tang either. So based off of this movie, what I was getting was Shaolin uses the fist, Wu-Tang uses the sword. Like that was the movie's way of differentiating the two styles for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, the movie does do a pretty good job at like making both styles visually distinct at points. Besides the whole, like one's like barehanded fighting and the other one's more gravitating towards like weapon fighting. Like there's actually like signature moves that both characters actually try to like, develop like throughout the movie, and it's like they keep on harkening back to that and like throwing that into the choreography. I'm like,
I like that a lot. The movie is repetitive, but not in like a bad way. It's helping us understand. Okay, these types of movements are indicative of Shaolin, and then these sword movements are more for Wu-Tang.
So that kind of leads me to like what I was with all that said, like kind of leads me to like what I was gonna try to get at. This movie's really great with the martial arts philosophy. Like I think it's with the very premise alone and what it leads to towards the end. It's let's just say, without spoiling anything, it really does kind of highlight the efficacy of like mixing styles, right? Or like mixing styles, like integrating things from like other disciplines in order to make yourself a better fighter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, so we can save it for later. But it's a great. What they do is they almost unintentionally mash up the styles because of the situation the characters get in at the end. And it's fun because it actually, it works to their advantage. And then because of the poor English dub, they really have to pound us over the head with dialogue that we can understand what's going on.
Yeah. So on that note, like the versions that we got, like the quality wasn't always the greatest. Like we had to either compromise with the cropping or the grading.
It's a shame. There's no Blu-ray of this. There's no HD. It is a DVD rip that is probably a VHS
Transfer.
It looks horrendous. It's such a shame. The English dub has it looks like a better transfer, because anything that was super super dark on the Chinese version has been brightened up, but it's cropped to 4:3, and we were just so frustrated because this movie utilizes the widescreen very very capably, or it uses the full frame, especially in the fights. So when I was watching this, I went back and I watched the English dub, and man, there are times when things get cropped off screen and nothing's happening in the center because it's just happening on the sides, but it's cropped off.
That is frustrating for sure. No, because I noticed that too. I was like, all right, I just have to make concessions. We should do like a composite of like the full aspect ratio behind the 4:3. So like the sides it'll be like letterbox.
Right, right.
Yeah. All right, but anyways, generally speaking, the action. Let's talk about this. This is 1983, 2 years before Police Story, and I guess it's like 3 years after 36 Chambers of Shaolin. And this is not a Shaw Brothers production, at least. No, I'm pretty sure this is not a Shaw Brothers production.
No, this is a Hing Foot film.
Yeah. So
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I'm sure Gordon Liu, he only got footing for actually making a film if he reached outside of Shaw Brothers. But yeah, like the action, it's starting to bridge that gap between like the old style and the new style. Like new style, what I mean by that is like we're finally reaching into like modern era martial arts choreography and like all the things that come with it, like better camera work and like the lack of like that rhythmic movement, like moving to a metronome, like 1 2 3 1 2 3. We don't have that as much in this movie. Like we don't have that after like the Police Story era, but like this movie is like it's almost completely gone, right? You still kind of feel it, but it's almost out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can see the metronome fighting still there, but it's weird because it's faster. It's like instead of like 1 2 3 1 2 3, it's like 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So like I see the speed. You can tell that the performers have just gotten so much faster, but I can still see that rhythm in there. I mean, we're looking at this with like razor focused eyes,
right?
But man, the camera work, I just love the camera work in this movie. It's a guy holding a camera, just following the main, centering our characters or centering our focus where it needs to be, and just simply following it. It's not that active camera where it's kind of wavy. It's not shaky camera. It's just like, oh, I'm going left to right, or I'm kind of going up and down.
Yeah.
Very, very slow ease in. So it never feels like the camera is detracting from anything. It's actually enhancing because it's helping our eyes to follow what he wants to focus on.
Right. No, that's true. Yeah, like we're always keeping the camera work like nice and dynamic. It's never like, oh, we hold on a shot for too long, which are nice. We obviously love those, but like if every shot was like that, that'd be boring.
It gets boring, yeah.
Yeah, so like we are tracking the movement. Sometimes we're tracking the performers. Sometimes we're tracking their hand motions. Sometimes we're tracking like the weaponry, or like we'll switch to another like completely different person in the middle of the fight. Like all those things, like they add a lot of variety to the fight. So like that keeps like spices things up.
Yeah, and we still it's kind of neat because we still have those older movie tropes, the camera tropes. Like you still get the the truck ins or the truck outs. It's not the crash zoom or the slam zoom. It's not as hard, which kind of became parody, later on. It's just like sometimes it'll do a move and then it'll truck in to focus, or you'll have some choreography and the camera will truck out to then make the frame wider so we can see more motion.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at this point, maybe it was just it was becoming less trendy to do that, right? They were just like, okay, we can do more dynamic, literally dynamic, and more interesting camera movements rather than just crash zooming, right?
Yeah,
like just pulling that dial on that lens. So like I'm very appreciative of that. Like, but in terms of the choreography itself, it's still somewhere in between. Like, you're right, it is faster, and like, it doesn't. You can still kind of feel that rhythm that they're trying to work off of, but I think that they're trying to. The best way for me to describe the choreography is that there's more lethal intent behind the movement now, rather than, say for example, Mystery of Chess Boxing. Like, again, great physicality in that movie and movies of that era, but like, it feels like they're quite literally just like dancing around one another. Whereas here, it's like, it's somewhere in between, where it feels like they're actually trying to strike for like damage. They're actually trying to like actually hurt the other person, but at the same time, they're still doing some of that, like, like they're doing movements that you're like,
well, it looks like dance choreography.
Yeah,
still,
but like, they're striking at areas where, like, why would you try to attack their toe when their head is like right next to you, or like, you have a sword. Like, why wouldn't you just slice their head off when you have it already like wrapped around their neck? Like simple things like that. Like, so it's like it's still bridging that gap between like, oh, what looks good and like just purely looks aesthetically pleasing, and like what is like, like, not practical. Practical is not the right word to describe this, but like, you start to like question, like, why would you do that when you can just literally just cut his head off and end the fight? Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, there's choreography. I mean, modern choreography now, we know that these are two people trying to fight each other and hurt each other. Mm-hmm. Earlier choreography, it is dance choreography, but they're fighting in that choreography. And yeah, I'm still leaning towards, it looks like a dance at times. Mm-hmm. No, for me, that was happening more noticeably when Gordon Liu went to the Shaolin Temple. Like, all his Shaolin Temple stuff, like, I'm not seeing fighting really. I'm seeing more like they're striking poses against each other, which like, I don't like that, but that's just what it is. So.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Oh, and one of the things I wanted to point out too, I didn't notice it maybe in the earlier moments, but towards the end, so we got the speed, we're getting faster, we got the better camera work. I think in terms of how they're designing the choreography now, when there's so at the end, it's the two, it's Gordon and Adam fighting Johnny Wang, and so when there's a 2-on-1, I think they don't realize that you need to knock somebody out so you can continue the fight with maybe the two other people who are still up.
Okay, sure.
Because one thing I noticed was Gordon Liu would be fighting Johnny Wang, and then instead of him getting like knocked out and then falling off camera, the cameraman would just pan over, and then Johnny Wang would fight Adam Cheng. Yeah. And we didn't Gordon Liu doesn't enter the fight because he's just
off camera.
He's just off camera. And once I noticed that, I was like, oh, they didn't have anything to knock him off. They're literally just moving the camera over.
We still have that problem in modern movies.
We do. We really do.
That's not a just indicative of this movie. Freaking what was that movie? With Iko Uwais, that new one. I forgot the title already.
Fistful of Vengeance. Great title.
No, that movie also did that too. When you see Louis Tan just spazzing in the background. Right. Okay. But like I would love to talk more about the action in this film. Like in more detail. But like legacy wise, I think, just to wrap it up, I think there's clear reasons why this movie like greatly influenced the Wu-Tang Clan. I can definitely see it like after watching the film and actually like sitting through it. I think Zero, you don't watch you haven't watched the Wu-Tang, an American Epic, right? Or where I forgot the title of that movie, that show.
Well, yeah, there was a mini series based off of the lives of the Wu-Tang Clan members. I did not. I know you did, and then you sent me that clip.
Yes,
that
I did.
Really, really great clip. It's their interpretation of the final fight of this movie. and it's the Marshall Club, which is fucking awesome. They're kind of blowing up now after everything everywhere all at once. And then is it Ron Yuan?
Ron Yuan, yeah.
Ron Yuan plays the bad guy, but they're all talking in that. They're talking like gangsters, like rappers. So the dialogue is really funny. It's reinterpreted for for hip hop. Rap
hip hop heads,
something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. One, they probably couldn't get the rights to the original film, but two, it's amazing. Just to talk about that really quickly is I'm glad that they actually were to take that and put that into the show, because I remember that episode vaguely. I mean, basically the whole premise is they're kind of summarizing the conflict. The internal conflict that the Wu-Tang Clan members were facing amongst themselves, and this movie kind of embodies the same kind of struggles that they were going through. So I really appreciate how they wove that in, and watching the source material and watching this movie, I'm like, oh wow, they literally just lifted the premise of this movie and were able to weave that into the show. So kudos to them. And then watching that clip, I'm so impressed how faithful they were. And the Martial Club's always been pretty good at this. Whenever they do YouTube clips or they do choreography, they're pretty good at reinterpreting old school choreography, or being faithful to the choreography that they're sampling from. It'd be easy
modernizing it and adding their personal flair to it.
Yeah. But for the most part, they still can stay faithful to that. I guess early '80s, Gordon Liu style fighting. So I was very impressed by that. But I'd say check that out too, in case you guys are interested in what we're talking about. But yeah, I guess with that, we'll just talk about the actual action and spoilers for the movie. Spoilers in the Patreon section.
I think we kind of elaborated a lot on the plot, but there is kind of a spoiler that I didn't want to go into, because it happens out of nowhere, and I was like, oh shit, didn't see that coming. Didn't even know what was going on there. But yeah, so if you want to hear about spoilers and you want to hear more about the action, follow us on Patreon.
Sure. Yeah. All right. I guess we're on that section now. So